I have a disturbingly high tolerance for every type of game under the label of strategy games. I enjoy strategy Japanese role-playing games like Fire Emblem, classic role-playing games like Baldur's Gate, and even real-time strategy games like Supreme Commander. But the difference between a Fire Emblem fan and a StarCraft fan is grand. What I'd recommend for one doesn't usually work for the other. Even worse, some franchises, like Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre, are all strategy games but are quintessentially different. It's one of those weird pet peeves of mine to mislabel games as just another strategy game. In the same vein, calling every challenging game a Souls-like isn't genuine. So while many games fall under the strategy tag, they don't correctly represent what each game offers. And it's not vital to gaming that genres are legible. Realistically, broad stereotyping is more of a marketing issue. But players cannot identify or compare games effectively. An XCOM fan will struggle to sell his recommendation to a friend who only views strategy games as historical simulators and has already written them off. It's frustrating when trying to identify credibility with reviewers and communities. Obviously, I think the argument has a purpose. It's important to note what these games individually offer and their associated designs historically. Therefore, I prescribe 3 subgenres to strategy games. Tactics, operations, and strategy are the triad that work independently or tangentially to create a sound strategy game. Typically, designers focus or provide on one of these facets, but can incorporate all 3. To start, I want to identify what strategy is. Simply put, strategy is the study or science of war, and the planning that drives it. Any long-term planning incorporating the bigger picture falls under strategy. In a game like Hearts of Iron 4, strategy is the player's overall plan of where to attack and defend. A player starting in Brazil in World War II will have difficulty conquering the world without a plan. Their strategy is the player's plan to gather more resources, territory, and progress towards capitulating the globe. The distribution of troops, resource allocation, and research prioritization can be a part of strategy, but more likely falls under operations. A player can incorporate rushing nuclear research as a strategy, but the operations element is the detail of what's needed, the logistical aspect, if you will. Operations are more of the content inside the various menus. Economy and macro in StarCraft are logistical systems. In XCOM, consider the different opportunity costs a player has to regard. Prioritizing a scientist or an engineer is a logistical decision based on the player's needs. That calculation can also be influenced by strategy. If your plan to beat the boss is dependent on more powerful weapons technology, you may wish to prioritize the scientist. The line blurs, but most games with progression and resource management have operations as a component. The unique component, however, is tactics. Not every strategy game has strategy, many prioritize tactics, and many of these titles exclusively focus on strategy or tactics. Tactics can be summarized by executing a plan or even the interactions on the battlefield during combat. It's the study of how to best achieve a strategy. In Fire Emblem, most objectives or given strategies are defeat the commander or seize the throne. The process of controlling your units and the micro-strategies on the battlefield is tactics. The lack of strategy in strategy games justifies the argument further. Using Fire Emblem as an example again, there are plenty of logistical and tactical moments in the series. However, the series is known for linear storytelling. In linear storytelling, there's no decision making about what fights to take and how to achieve the grand objective of the war. Instead, it does exist outside the player's agency. The narratives and its characters decide on a strategy, and the player uses logistics and tactics to execute their plot strategy. Beyond just fascinating, this fact immediately brings the problem to attention. If someone likes Fire Emblem, can one reasonably deduce they like strategy in games? And the answer is no. One may confirm that it's reasonable that a fan may like turn-based tactics or role-playing games, but strategy isn't the focus of Fire Emblem games. The focus is on character-driven stories, progression systems, and turn-based tactics design. Similarly, Hearts of Iron 4 fans might not like other strategy games that focus more on tactics. StarCraft or Final Fantasy Tactics might not entertain them. The importance of some genres is clarification and identification, if it wasn't obvious. I get a real kick out of recommending games to my peers and strangers. I'm far from perfect, but I have a modicum of aptitude for it. Having proper associative groups for the games allows for consistency of accuracy when looking for myself and others. I get that genres are created by marketed teams and exist only to sell more copies, but personally, I think they serve more than their intended purpose and help me find what I'm trying to vibe with. The best strategy games, in my experience, combine all 3 components. Furthermore, they use all 3 cohesively to better challenge the player. Whether a game prioritizes difficulty or agency, these 3 subgenres are potent additions to the formula. For example, Tactics Ogre Let Us Clean Together suffers slightly from the Fire Emblem dilemma. It has a branching narrative dependent on the player choosing various preset dialogues, and there's opportunity for strategic decisions in that game. Furthermore, it's already featured tactics through its TBT design, and the progression systems work as logistical components. XCOM, on the other hand, has strategy through emergent strategic planning. The player's goal is clear: stop the aliens. However, how that's achievable is unclear and on a scale beyond tactical decision making. How the player attempts to slow the enemy and eventually destroy the enemy is their strategy. Their resource research and equipment management are logistical, and tactics are the process of controlling their units during combat. When all three genres work in tangent, it creates a genuinely remarkable experience. And this is a topic I've thought a lot about. I love strategy games, but their designs deter too much from each other to properly sort them. And whenever I'm looking to scratch a specific itch, I can't sort just by strategy. It doesn't work. So I wanted to indulge this thought process into a video and figure it out for myself. And while I doubt it was helpful, I do hope it was at least enjoyable.